Hi everyone and welcome back to customer service. This is Tony Brancatella. Let's get right into this course. We have chapter 9 to do today, and chapter 9's got to do with leadership in customer service. So leadership in customer service certainly is an ability, and if you look at what abilities mean, it does influence others. So it's not really an automatic result of a title. What that means is that just because you got a title does not mean that you are a leader. And we can see this through now, through this crisis that we're going through. I'm quite sure, everyone is aware of this, and it's in all the papers and all over the world right now. And so we can see today how certain leaders lead not only through a title, be it prime minister or a president, but you can see leaders in today, especially in the health field, medical doctors and nurses, how they lead, and they don't have titles besides just their own title, being a nurse or being a doctor. So it's a great example of what leadership is. And in customer service, like we had mentioned in the past, and we discussed a little bit, when it comes to customers, certainly everybody's a customer in life. And if you can take a look at the doctors and the nurses of the world today, every patient they have to handle is certainly a customer. So life has changed enormously, and leadership has taken a different perspective for a lot of people in our world. And we can see that now on a regular daily basis. Right. So anyway, requires development of effective leadership skills. Yes, certainly. Training is one way. Some leaders certainly have certain characteristics that makes them lead better than others. Certainly, one of them certainly would be empathy, and it certainly would be passion, sensibility. All these aspects come into play that have nothing to do with skill, just character, right? But it does require practice in how you implement them. So a lot of people have been thrown into leadership roles recently, and certainly some fit in really well, and some don't. Some need to have a bit of practice before they can really implement their tools of their trade. And others that have been having a lot of practice in the past, unfortunately, find leadership in times of need like this, in stressful times of need. They certainly work in the opposite direction and are not actually leading, or just trying to stay afloat in the way they see things, and they put themselves in front of everybody else. That certainly is not a leader. Leaders ask certain questions about themselves. First question they would ask is, how effectively do I relate to others? Again, here in context of what's happening today in our world, certainly you can see around you the ones that are leading effectively, even the ones that are respecting rules and regulations that have been put in place are leaders. The ones that are not are the ones that think that they are above and beyond everybody else, and they don't relate to the situation that we're going through, and are not distancing themselves, or are not staying away 2 meters away from everybody else. So this is a big thing today. So this plays a big part. So they don't effectively relate to others. They just relate to themselves. Another question is, do I practice excellent time management? Time management is very important. How you take time and how you see time. Again, today, with time, has taken a different toll for us to stay home and self-isolate. We need to be very patient and be able to make decisions, again, that relate to others, and time management plays a big role. We need to know how to use our time. Some of us have more time, and some of us have still the same amount of time they had before, but in a different context of staying home and trying to put things in perspective for the future and who knows how much time is left in this pandemic before we get back to normal. So that plays a huge part today. Values plays a big part, like I just mentioned before, absolutely, when it comes to leadership. Also knowledge when it comes to subject matter. Again, how do you lead? Certainly you have to know what you're talking about to lead. And again, here in context of what's happening today, you can see that a lot of leaders, unfortunately, don't have a good perspective or a good understanding of what's happening around them, or knowledge of a certain subject, like certainly certain subject about viruses or medical subjects, and they take the lead only because of what they think they know, and unfortunately that is hurting everyone around them. Do I share my knowledge with others? Do I delegate? Am I transparent? Do I see things in a broader perspective, or do I see just things through my perspective? So that's, again, plays a big part in how leaderships are looked upon. Risks are certainly a big part of leadership too. Calculated risks, return on an investment, or return on risk factors plays a big part. And certainly we're not talking about risks of endangering lives like some people are doing today, but the opposite, where we try to find ways of trying to get through this, or trying to get through a situation, be it in customer service, or be it in life in general. Do I establish measurable goals for myself? In other words, do I try to make myself continuously improve and get myself better? Have I done a good job? How do I measure that? This is really important. If you look at SMART goals, we're not going to look at it this time around, but if you look at SMART goals, certainly the M stands for measurement. So there's two types of leaders. One leader is, let me just see, two types of leaders. One type of leader is a formal leader. In other words, they have the authority and power of their official position. Like a sales manager would have the position of managing a sales force team. They get paid for it. They have a job description. This is what they do. Unfortunately, again here, just because you have a formal title does not mean that you manage very well. So yes, so this is a formal leader. Could also be a teacher. Informal leaders, where they have no official authority, but do have the ability to influence others. And looking at this, just for a little bit of humor here, a class clown will certainly try to influence others with his personality, with his jokes. His lack of responsibility plays a big part, and a lot of class clowns feel that they have that authority to influence others not to study or to laugh at every joke and silliness that they make, right? But they're still leaders. And there are informal leaders. Certainly there's many types of informal leader, but this is one type of an informal leader. So if you look at the comparisons of both, right? So let's say the teacher is encouraging class to follow the rules of the school, whereas the class clown is encouraging the kids to have fun and forget about class rules. So here they are, really the best leader in their respective areas, informal versus formal. Again, we're just a little bit of humor on this, but it gives you an idea of what an informal leader could be. Certainly, an informal leader in a classroom could be the opposite of a class clown and see the direction that the class is going and counters the class clown. So, having said that, certainly class clowns don't show care and respect. And so informal leaders, again, is the opposite. We're not really looking at the class clowns as being informal leaders, but informal leaders certainly today could be leaders that don't have the title but still do the job. In today's world, certainly all the ones that are really important today in our world. Delivery drivers are a very big part in today's world that no one ever thought they would be able to lead the way they are leading, but they are. Nurses and also anybody that supports nurses can be also considered to be excellent leaders in today's perspective. So excellent leaders do show care and respect. They also practice what they preach. In other words, they don't say one thing and do another. They do exactly what they say. They certainly have expertise in the area which they are working in as much as possible. And also, they practice consistency. In other words, they don't do one thing one day and then stop doing it the next day. They consistently do the things that they preach. And they certainly behave like a professional. In other words, again, the word professional stands for profession. They behave in their right of their profession. So they will follow their job descriptions and do exactly what they're paid for, in this case if they're formal leaders, and also show as much professionalism as possible. Certain characteristics continue here of excellent leaders. They empower employees or empower students in many cases, depending on who the leader is. In other words, they do give them the possibility of feeling the same thing as they do, where they can lead and learn how to lead. Okay. They also support. They give support. Certainly is a characteristic of an excellent leader. And they also demonstrate flexibility. In many cases, they're not rigid, and they do follow rules. That's not the same thing. Setting precedents in rules and regulations, certainly, giving a raise or to one and not to the other if they have done the same job is certainly not flexibility. Flexibility could be in many aspects the way they treat their employees depending on their situation or personal situation, flexibility on the hours that they work and stuff like that, but certainly flexibility does not mean being taken advantage of. And leaders are also available for others. So those are characteristics of excellent leaders. So let's look at goals of leadership. So a goal is an identified result to strive to accomplish. So this is one thing that leaders do all the time, right? They strive to accomplish certain things in let's say, in a work environment. If we look at customer service in the true meaning of it, they really look to strive to accomplish certain goals. So how they set these goals, right? The process of establishing goals, goal setting, this is what that means, is the process of establishing goals and evaluating their importance. So leadership, you need to know how to set goals, and you need to know how to process through it. So yes, in your job description, if you have training, you certainly will be able to do this. Now, this is certainly a hard skill. Goal setting, if you're taught how to do this in the process and you follow the process, it's just like a sales process. If you follow it, certainly it is a hard skill. So certain steps for setting proper goals or effective goals. So you need to write down the overall goal to be accomplished. So you do, in case of a leader, you would have a sales meeting. The first point of the meeting would be what do they have to accomplish in that day? What do they have to accomplish in that week, in that month, and so on and so forth, right? So this has to be written down and expressed. So identify how the goal may be accomplished also is a sign of effective goal setting and how you do that. And when we get into goals, the next step is always objectives. And from goal setting, you always lead into an objective. An objective certainly has got to do with time or date. And when you include a date with the goal, when this will be completed. Then the goal switches from a goal itself to a more concrete or directional objective. Also, what's important in leadership is understanding culture, understanding the values of different people, understanding the values of how you see everybody around you. So culture plays a big part and consists certainly of values, beliefs, and norms of a group of people that share the same thing. So leadership understands this and can see through all that and understands the value of culture in a work environment. Speaking of environment, a customer service environment should have a customer service oriented culture. In this case, we talk about in a work environment or a workplace, everything has to be towards customer service. In other words, you can't have disgruntled employees feeling that customers are taking advantage of them and they feel that they are not respected in many cases. The environment is led by the leader. In this case, let's say it's a sales manager. They would have to follow through. So, if the culture does not encourage customer service, then excellent customer service will not happen. This is as simple as this sounds. This is true. So this has to be respected throughout the day, throughout the week when it comes to customer service. This is really, really important. And certainly, certain tools could be used to train the employees to follow a cultural sound customer service department, and they're called job aids. So job aids are tools to reinforce training. So job aids could be just about anything from instruction manuals to sources of information. Job aids can also be support, right? How a leader supports someone or respects how they do their job, and they do also give back information, feedback, I should say, on how they are doing. And they also, our job aid is learning how to step away. Believe it or not, stepping away and delegating jobs and not always micromanaging is a big part of being a good leader. But there's all kinds of job aids, right? So job aids could be computer command or software usage, knowing how to do that, right? And they certainly are helpful in the recall of this. Recommended telephone greetings, how to operate printers, routers, or specialized equipment is also job aid. Excuse me. Steps in problem-solving process, telephone system usage, safety precautions, even how to file insurance claims. All these are job aids, certainly will help you in a work environment. Anything else that employees or customers have been trained or encouraged to do are all considered to be job aids. So job aids are not just tangible things like computers or printers and stuff like that, but it's mostly intangible, where it's processes that help you do your job better. Leadership also without position. We talked about informal versus formal leaders. So this is when informal leaders take a leadership role. We talked about that before, about the class clown. Class clowns certainly would not take a leadership role. They would be looking out just for themselves, and they're more of an informal leader in the full right of it. But a leadership without position, that are mostly informal leaders that do this, but also, believe it or not, yes, certain leaders that are formal can also take a higher leadership role. They can also be considered to be leadership without position. So become the kind of leader that people would follow voluntarily, I should say, even if you had no title or position. But again, even if you do have a title and you do take a stand on a higher title, certainly that will play into leadership without that position. So what are things that you can do to show your leadership? You can do simple things, right? You can just congratulate someone for handling a situation well. You can make suggestions to your supervisors or to your managers. You can always show how upfront you are and transparent, and you can be always on a positive side just by a simple thing like smiling or being more genuine, right? So treat others as you would like to be treated is a very big part in how you can show your leadership skills. You could also add a positive method of showing leadership and encouraging. So you add your own positive method, I should say, in how you do things. So in other words, just stay proactive and stay positive. And if you are working in a company with hierarchy, certainly with a manager, you always need to try to meet or exceed your manager's expectations. This is how it is working in an office. And you can do this by being a team player, by finding out what your manager, and that's misspelled there, certainly not manger. Oh my gosh. Its manager considers to be important. You can also, one of the most important things also of being a leader is being able to laugh at yourself. And when you make a mistake, you certainly have to be able to take that and understand that, hey, we're all human and we all make mistakes. So leaders also make mistakes, and being able to understand that they make mistakes is a big part of being a leader. So I'm sort of happy to see that mistake there, but I will fix it for next time. And in today's world, the big words that we see are collaborators, influencers. This is what leaders do. So be a collaborator, don't be a complainer. All managers or leaders certainly have somebody above them. And if you go around complaining about not getting your worth or not getting your salary, or you work for a lousy company, or you get to do everything, or no one listens to you, these are complainers. We don't want that. We want to be a collaborator. You also can't have unreasonable expectations of your employees, of people that surround you. So you have to have reasonable expectations. And you got to be genuine, and you come to work, and in a work environment, certainly you can't bring all your stuff that you might have happened to you on the weekend or at night. You have to come in with a great attitude, and you need to stay professional. So customer service really depends on leadership. If I may finish with this, right? And leadership in a company involves everyone at every level. So you can lead informally in a company, and this is what makes companies great. When you're able to lead on both ends, certainly it improves a company. Empowerment, like we mentioned before, plays a big part in customer service and leadership. And all decisions have to be pro-customer. And this is not more important. It's not more important than has been or will be today or going forward. Customers today, with all that's going around them, decisions that they're making certainly revolve around themselves and their future. So being a pro-customer decision maker when it comes to a company is really important. Again, training plays a big part in leadership and customer service. And all talking about training has to focus on the people that surround you in the company and processes. And one last aspect is, like I mentioned also before, is transparency, is not hide behind a door, not hide behind a title. You need to understand, like I just did before, that leaders make mistakes and be upfront with it, and if they do, and don't hide behind or don't shift the responsibility to employees when you've made the mistake or you made the bad decision. You need to accept responsibility. The company has to be transparent about its future, about what's going on. It's like the same thing like now in today's world. We're reporting all kinds of numbers today with this pandemic. Certain countries are not transparent, and certain countries or certain places are. So this plays a big part in the future and also plays a big part in customer service. Great, enough said. That was chapter 9. We will continue this in the next chapter. Thank you.